If you've used AI before to code any of your screens or even design something from scratch, you're probably familiar with the problem that AI generates random components from random libraries, sometimes even scrambling multiple libraries like a button from Shadcien, a checkbox from Tailwind, and so on. And that's because of multiple reasons. One would be not prompting correctly, another not setting the boundaries, and the last one not being upfront with what library it should use from the get-go. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process on how to create a highly customizable AI agent component library with your code base. We are going to use Material UI from MUI.com as our boilerplate because its API is universally understood by the language models. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Adrian and I've been shipping products for the last decade. I also own a design and development agency and we've been running it for the last decade with revenue upwards to 6 figures. So I have quite a bit of extensive experience in the design system world, but still learning new stuff along the way and sharing with you guys because I think that's the way to go in this industry. So before starting the video, and of course we can fully skip this part, I just want to give you a few reasons why you should still use an established design system with a solid base. I mean, in terms of mature tokens and components versus building everything from scratch. Because to be honest, it's still very difficult, even with AI, to maintain a cohesive system, which is why I always recommend using something that already has the maturity. First reason is that teams still need Figma as their source of truth. Designing everything on the fly with AI doesn't give you this because you'd have to build that design side completely from zero. Instead, you can use something like Material UI for Figma, which is a highly established library. Of course, I'm 100% biased because I have created it, but it's used by teams from Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and so on. We're pretty confident in it because we haven't had any major complaints so far. Yeah, you know, Material UI kind of looks outdated in 2026, but that doesn't mean it's not customizable. To be honest, most apps are intended for internal tools and they don't need to look that pretty anyway. Though there are plenty of examples of big companies using the library even on their user-facing side of their applications, like Auth0. Another reason is onboarding. When you add a new member to your team, a scratch built AI system won't be documented and the design language isn't actually defined yet. Someone joining the team won't know anything about the visual standards or how they're supposed to design with it. Third reason is that if you're coding without a set foundation like MUI or Shadcien, your AI will just pull components from random places. You don't want a Frankenstein project where you have a button from one library, a checkbox from another, and so on. And the last reason I can think of right now is that you won't start with a blank canvas, you get to start with a complete setup that has everything from basic buttons to complex data grids. So you never have to start really from zero. So depending on your current level of expertise with code, initiating a code base might be super simple. Maybe you've done this before 100 times, but if you haven't, let's briefly go into what you can do. So let's open a terminal and let's cd into the code folder. You can create your own folder and repo, or maybe your team already has a GitHub in place, and you can ask them to add you on a separate branch, which will separate your contribution from the rest of the app, so it won't break anything. After you make that folder, which I won't be doing because I've already done it, you can use Claude or any other code editor to set up this code base for you. So an example prompt would be something like which I already use, is create a React boilerplate using Vite or Next.js depending on your needs, TypeScript and material UI latest version. Include a basic Storybook setup with a single button component example. So this prompt should give you a very similar project structure as mine, but it doesn't have to be an exact copy because Claude will most definitely know how to work with your project as well. Now, in case you want to customize a default aspect of the MUI components, and most people do, you need to establish strict rules so the AI knows how to tweak them to match your brand. If you've already played around in Figma and customized some things there, and you want to translate those changes into actual code components themselves, you can create a file, a markdown file, right in the root of your workspace, which we can call theme-overrides.md. We will use this file to document every single change you make to the components or tokens from the MUI Figma library, ensuring that AI can reference it to make the code look exactly right. Here you'll write out explicit token rules, the exact changes you brought over from design. Alternatively, you can just hand those notes to a developer. You type down every single change, like border radiuses, and basically send it to an engineer so they can translate it into a theme overrides object. So let's just make one change here. Let's go to a button in Figma and change the text style, which by default is uppercase. For some reason, I don't like it, to normal case for all sizes. Once that's changed in design, let's head over to our newly created theme overrides file and basically log it. So under the button section, we can write something like change font style from uppercase to normal case for all variants. Simple, right? Just to show how flexible the framework is, let's also remove the shadow from buttons in Figma because maybe I want to go for a cleaner look. Now let's reflect that in our markdown file as well, saying something like remove shadows from the contained variants. Now that we have some overrides to feed to the AI, we can drag and drop file and ask it whether you're using Claude or Gemini, can you please make these changes to the global styles, this is very important because the MUI ecosystem is so mature and the LLMs know everything about it. The model will easily locate the proper file to apply those updates. In my case, I'm using a simple straight out boilerplate, so I have a theme.ts file already in there. The AI will probably write directly in this file because it can see I've already created it. But even if you don't have this exact structure, it will most definitely figure out how to apply the changes to your specific setup. Another useful trick, if you're using Claude, is to use the init function from the Claude CLI. It will review all your project files and automatically generate a Claude markdown file detailing the architecture of the project, not noting that we use Storybook, a theme overrides file, and so on. This ensures that whenever you ask the AI to generate a new page, it stays anchored to your current stack using your exact MUI setup, and it won't hallucinate a random button from a completely different library. So next, spin up a Storybook to visually audit the work. You want to verify that the agent correctly mapped out all the varying states, like the sizes, the disabled modes, and custom loading configuration and so on. When you're working with a customized library like we are in this video, it is super nice to have this environment to document every single variant. We can look at our button and clearly see what changes were brought to the code and double check if it actually reflects the component we modified in Figma. It's a great way to sync up and make sure everything matches. To get this running, we need to open a new terminal instance since Storybook runs as its own separate app. So spin up a new tab and run npm run Storybook. If everything is configured correctly, you should see a nice button with a custom style applied. Now, a small issue that came up for me during this setup, because Storybook is an entirely isolated app, you have to explicitly feed your theme configuration. Previously, for some reason, I forgot to import our base theme into our Storybook config. But I just had to prompt Claude to help me bridge that gap and apply the global theme we just created to the Storybook app as well. We can tweak all the props, test every possible state, and audit the variants, which is the ultimate way to lay everything out and really prove that your Figma designs correlates perfectly with your code base. Now, if you are a designer and you want to showcase this to your team, I would recommend creating or setting up a new branch in the GitHub repo and not really deploying or messing up with the main production code, and simply create a branch for yourself, like in my case, something like feature slash custom design system or something like that. And that way you'll have a separate space where you can experiment, because most of the times you will need some engineers to still review all those changes. At least in our company, we still have engineers review my code and review my theme overrides, because even AI can make a lot of mistakes sometimes. I would also mention to the team that, hey, it doesn't have to be a complete replacement of your work. It's just something that you can get inspiration from aside from just a Figma file. You now have a working app, a storybook where you can review all the components and variants. And this adds a ton of value in the workflow of the developers as well. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to shift faster with AI, make sure you hit that like button, maybe even subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I try to release new design engineering breakdowns every single week, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.